Hi and good day once again, and welcome to Transforming Lives Continually. I'm Michael Stewart, your host, and as usual we try to transform lives on this program by using various topics and various ideas that we bring forth from time to time on the program. Today I want to talk to you on a very interesting topic: the elements of a genuine apology. That's the elements of a genuine apology. From time to time, we all would mess up in some way or the other, and we would do something wrong. We would go awry in something that we have done from time to time. So therefore, an apology becomes a necessary part of life, where you've got to say at some point or the other, I am sorry. My father said that a man is not a man until he has learned to apologize. Therefore, apology is not a weakness. Apology, rather, is a strength of character. Those are the people who have been able to recognize themselves, understand that they are not infinite, understand that they are not infallible, but they are mortal and they are weak in areas, and they need, therefore, at some point to say, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, there are a number of people who don't like to say sorry, don't like to apologize, and give the impression that they never ever do anything wrong. If we really want to make it in life, if we really want to get along with people, we've got to be able to say from some time or the other, I am sorry. Those three words, I am sorry. Because it is a recognition that I have done something wrong. I want to take the lesson from the book of Luke chapter 15 from verse 11. In there we see here the story, a popular story, the prodigal son. I'm sure that you have heard this story from time to time, but I want to bring it from the angle of the apology that the prodigal son would have made. We know that he's a father. He had two sons. The younger of the two decided to go off on his own and to live his life. He came to his father and said, Father, the things that you have for me, could you hand them over to me, please? The father gave it to him, and the Bible says, and a few days later, I don't know whether the father understood that the son would have left home with what he got, or whether he wanted to invest it, but whatever it is, the son left home a few days later and went off into his life. During his sojourn, a number of friends he would have gathered, because now he has things, he has possessions, he has assets, he has money, he has wealth. And friends would have come with him. And the Bible says that he lived his life in riotous living. Not righteous living, but riotous living. In all sort of gaiety and fun loving and so on. And he spent all that he had. It is only after he spent all, the Bible says, a famine came. What an untimely appearance of a famine. Sometimes the things that happen to us in life happen to us at the worst time of our lives. When he had all, he didn't have the famine. He might have been able to ride through the famine with his wealth. But now that he did not have, the famine came. So he's in destitute situations. The Bible says that he would have fain fed himself with the feed that they were feeding swines. He had to get a job. He went and therefore was feeding swine. And in the swine pen, in the pen with the pigs, he is now thinking his life. Now, here's what the Bible says. And he came to himself. What that means is that while he's there, down in the dumps, down at the lowest part of his life, this son, who took all that he had, now took some time to think, to review his life, look at where he has come to. He said, my father's house has so much, and look at me, look at where I am here. What have I really done with my life? He's reflecting and he's going through his life and he's asking himself, what is it that I have done with my life? What decisions that I've made that has me in this situation that I'm now in? If you want to really give a genuine apology, spend some time thinking. Think about yourself. Think about your life. Think about the decisions that you have made in your life. Some of the decisions you made were not very good decisions, you know. Some of them you could have made better decisions. You could have taken advice. You could have listened to other people and not take the decisions that you took. There are times that people would have left home too early, just as this prodigal son apparently. Too early he left home. There's some young girls that have out on their own, that they are not mature enough to be living independently. There are some young men who would have left home thinking that they are mature and big enough to be able to run their own lives, and they have left home too early. And that would have started now a series of issues in their lives that make them come back to themselves and ask themselves, what have I really done? Sometimes you may need to go back home to apologize. You may need to go back to some people and apologize and say, I am sorry. But you cannot do that before you have sat down with yourself and examine yourself and ask yourself some serious, hard questions. Where have I gone wrong? What could I have done better? And is this the best situation that I am in? Who's responsible for my circumstances? And the answer for that last question must come up to be you. Because often the decisions that we make give us the circumstances of our lives. You therefore are living the life of decisions you made. Unfortunately, some people go about trying to find somebody else to blame. If my parents were treating me better, if there wasn't so much quarrel at home, and if there was more love and so on, all of those are real issues, yes. But you had a choice. You had a decision to make, and you made the decision. And sometimes when you have made your decisions, it is a wrong decision. And you need to be man enough, woman enough, and mature enough to say, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. This prodigal son sat down and he reflected on his life. He looked at himself and he said, I think I have done some wrong stuff. I don't know which aspect of the decision he made that he felt was wrong. I don't know if he felt that when he went to his father and asked his father for his inheritance, whether he felt I should not have. I don't know whether it was because after having received it, he may not have been wrong in asking for it, but he may have felt that after receiving it, I should not have left home and now spent it. I don't know whether it is the decision of how he spent it that he was sorry for, but what I do know is that he spent enough time asking himself some serious questions, and he came up with the answer that he was wrong. Now, in your own life, when you look at your life, are you happy with your life? Are there some things that you have done wrong that you could have done better? Are there some people that you trespass against, that you hurt along the way, that you need to say sorry to? Your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your co-worker, your neighbor, somebody that you would have hurt in your time, that you have ignored the pain and refusing to say sorry. What causes us to refuse to say sorry? What causes us to get to this point? Two things: ego and pride. Because our ego tells us that I don't want to appear weak, I don't want to appear faulty, I want to appear strong, I want to appear right. So some people are wrong and mighty. You can't be wrong and mighty. If you are wrong, admit that you are wrong. That is what causes people to respect you, because you recognize your error. So ego gets in the way because we don't want people to think of us lowly. We don't want people to think that we are capable of making an error, because sometimes it makes them think that they're higher than we are. But no, ego gets in the way. And pride. Pride is that I don't want to go and say sorry, because how it will look. What if they don't hear me? What if they don't accept my apology? There are some people who refuse to say sorry because they think the person will not accept the apology. You're not doing it for them. You are doing it not because you want them to accept it. You are doing it because it is the right thing to do. Whether or not they accept the apology is another matter. But you need to say sorry if you have transgressed, if you have trespassed, if you have hurt somebody. You need to say, just because of one reason and one reason only, it is the right thing to do. And so therefore you need to go and say, listen, I made an error. I accused you wrongfully. I came to the wrong conclusion. What I saw was not reality, because I got the impression this was it, but I realized the truth now. And you need to say sorry. If you have said something that insulted somebody, embarrassed them, hurt them, you need to go back and say sorry to your wife, your husband, your children. And say sorry, and people will begin to respect you. This young man sat down and he looked at his life. He emptied himself. And you know, the Bible tries to talk to us about learning to examine ourselves. That it says to us that we need to learn to examine ourselves and see whether we are in the faith. Because there's a way that seems right unto man, but the end thereof is the way of death. Self-examination is something we should do every single day. Why? Because it helps us to offload. It helps us to open up ourselves. It helps us to become naked before the eyes of man, God, and self. The word sincere comes from a word that really means without wax, empty, the flaws. Because in the days when they used to do sculpting and they would make sculpture, whenever there's a crack or a flaw, you'll take wax and you'll cover it over to hide the flaw, hide the break, hide the mistake. Sincere means without the wax, meaning that I see you as you are. You're not that perfect. Even though we try to pretend we are not that perfect. And people know we are not perfect. It is when we pretend to be perfect that cause people to reject us, shun us, shy away from us. When we become naked without the wax, sincere and open, that people can now tell this person is human as I am. And so therefore we need to go to that person, that situation, and say, listen, I am wrong. I suspect that this young man did not have ego at this point in time, did not have pride at this point in time, that he could say confidently, I have looked at myself, and the Bible says he came to himself. The other thing that was very interesting in this story is that the Bible says this is his conclusion after examining himself. I will arise and go to my father. What a wonderful, wonderful experience. After having looked at himself, recognized that he was wrong, recognized that I had all of this and I lost it, recognized that I'm in a situation that I had no right to be had I made a better decision. And he said, I will get up from here. I will now move from my circumstances of despondency, and I will go into a new circumstance. But in order to do that, I need to go to my father, where the error began, where I made the first mistake. Because he said, I will arise and I will go to my father. Some people don't apologize because they are waiting for the other person to come to them. He recognized, after examining himself, I will go to my father and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned. That's honorable. That's noble. That's humbling, because he recognized he's taking 100% responsibility for his situation. He's not blaming his father. He's not blaming his brother that he left home. He's not blaming the economy. He's not blaming politics. He's not blaming the circumstances of life. He takes responsibility. I have sinned, he said. Too often people, instead of taking full responsibility for their error, try to plaster it over by saying, yes, I was wrong, but if you didn't, but you also were wrong. Forget about focusing on the other person. When you go to apologize, if that person wants to acknowledge their own contribution to this situation, then it is all well and good. If not, at least accept yours. Take care of your own responsibility. Say sorry. Just as this young man, bright enough as he did, we may have condemned him for his original decision, but give him commendation for his second situation of recognizing his wrong and going to his father. I will arise, he said, and go to my father, and I will say. So he planned out his speech. Sometimes it's good to plan out your apology, because some apologies really end up creating more harm than good. It creates more problems. It creates more tension, because the apology is not genuine, or the apology was not well phrased. The apology comes across as though we have no idea what we're apologizing for. Hear what some people say. If I have done you anything wrong, I am sorry. Which means you really don't know what you did wrong. But when you reflect on yourself, as this young man did, he knew where he went wrong. And he says, I have sinned. You need to know where you went wrong. Why? Because when next you do the act, you must be fully conscious of what you did wrong the first time that created the situation. If it was because you spoke to the person harshly, or you embarrassed the person by the words you chose, and you say sorry, you must know, therefore, the next time don't use those words. So you must know, I am sorry for the way I spoke to you with such harsh words. Say exactly what it is that you did wrong. Just as this young man, he knew where he went wrong. So some people give this blanket apology just for the sake of it. Let me say here that there are times also that we need to say sorry even when we have not done anything wrong. Why? Because for peace sake, we say sorry. There are some things that are just not worth defending ourselves over. Just like that example that I just gave you. If, for example, somebody said that you spoke to them in such a harsh way that they felt embarrassed or they were hurt by it, you don't need to really try and defend that. That's the way they felt. Sometimes it's just best to just say, I am sorry, and move on. Don't win that fight. Don't win that battle. It may not be a battle worth winning. I am sorry. So the Bible says, he said, I will arise and go to my father. I'm not going to wait for my father to come to me. I am going to make the action himself. And you may need to now make an approach to somebody. You might have a daughter that you don't talk to. You might have a mother that you are not speaking with. You might have a father that you and your father are not getting along. Somebody in your job that you're not getting along, and you are sitting there hoping that they come to themselves. You need to come to yourself. You need to come to yourself and tell yourself, listen, I recognize my own error. And because I recognize it, I am now going to take responsibility for that. He said, I will arise, go to my father, and say to him, he scripted, I have sinned before heaven and thee. What he's saying here is, the error I made, the mistake I made, not only have I hurt you, I have hurt God. The things that we do, that we think that it doesn't bother anybody, it has no impact or anything on anybody else, you are wrong. You are so wrong. Because if you have done something wrong, you have done something wrong against somebody, you have done something wrong also against God. So there are other people who are affected by the things you do. And he was wide enough, bright enough, and expanded enough to recognize that I have done this thing and I affect other people. Some of the things we do affect so many other people that we have no idea who they are. The issue between a man and a woman affects not only the man and a woman, it affects the children. The issue that you might have would affect a number of other people around you. It may impact upon them and hurt them. Some of the issues that we have in church groups, that some of the discord that we have in religious communities, not only affecting the people who are warring and fighting, it's affecting the very image of Christianity. It's affecting the very image of Christ and the church as we go along with our war. Therefore, we need to recognize we have hurt more people than we think. And come out of the falsehood and recognize that you need to go to the people and say, I am sorry. And he said, I've hurt you, I've sinned against heaven and against thee. Two sets of people that he would have done it against. So the Bible says that he sat down, he examined himself, looked at himself inwardly, and he said, this is not good enough. My circumstances I'm not happy with. And then he said, I am going to do something about it. Notice it moved from thought to action. There are times that we sit down and we tell ourselves, I need to do something about my life. I need to do something about this situation. The next morning, we have not taken any action. We've lost the courage. We have lost the strength and the confidence to go to somebody and say, I am sorry. Because it is really a humbling experience. It is a humbling experience, so much so that this young man said, Father, I am not even worthy to be called your son. I am prepared to give up that rank. Make me as a hired servant. It's humbling. It is really a humbling experience to be able to examine yourself, see your faults, and go to somebody to apologize. And that's something that I think is so much lacking in the world today, that humility. Everybody tries to be wrong and strong. Everybody tries to always win a point and appear to be so big. that there are a number of quarrels and arguments that are taking place that should not be taking place. If somebody would just humble themselves and say, okay, I back down. When I look at myself, I know that I'm wrong. I know I contributed to this situation. I know I should not have. And he said, I am wrong. Don't even consider me as a son. Make me a humble servant. The Bible talks about a contrite heart, a humbling spirit, clean hands and pure hearts in the book of Psalm chapter 14 and verse 4. Those are the people the Bible says will dwell in the house of the Lord and in the Almighty. And we need people who are humble enough, not who say they are humble. I have listened to many people on radio and they talk about how they are God's humble servant, and they speak sometimes for 5-10 minutes talking about their humility. How humble could you be if you are boasting about being humble? Humility is something that people recognize in you. Humility is because of what you have done and how you have operated in your life. So all you've got to do is just exhibit the humility. People will recognize it. You don't need to tell people that. The prodigal son never said to himself, I will be humble and I'll go to my father. He never said it. It is his actions that we took the message from, that it had to be a humbling experience. When he said, don't make me as your son. Consider me a hired servant. That is the action. And we need more people who will show actions of humility, who will be in a quarrel and tell themselves, I will not argue in this circumstance here, because humility takes over, and tell them, the relationship that I have with this person is too important for me to destroy with words. There's a songwriter that says, angry words, or let them never from the tongue unbridled slip. May the heart's best impulse ever check them ere they soil the lip. So therefore, the humble person would back down. As the book of Proverbs says, a soft answer turns away wrath. Look at how many people we have hurt. As James said, the tongue is a world of fire, deadly. We have said some things to children. We have said something to people that they live with the pain of what we have said for a long, long, long time. And what could ease that pain is a simple apology. A simple apology. Now, therefore, what I want us to be able to take from this lesson is that there are elements of a genuine apology. There are some apologies that are not genuine. The ingenuous apology would be those that we try to find somebody else to blame for the circumstances that we did while apologizing. So therefore, that can't be genuine. If I'm going to say that I would not have done this if you didn't do this, so therefore you are at fault too, that's not a genuine apology. If we have no idea what we're apologizing for, that we are saying, listen, okay, sorry. That's not a genuine apology. And some people just flippantly try to say it, and they think that all of a sudden people are supposed to just forgive them. A genuine apology has certain ingredients, and those ingredients are a self-examination. Look at yourself. Identify where you went wrong. Secondly, once you have identified where you have gone wrong, be prepared to take action on that. To go to the person, the people that you have done wrong, and admit that you were wrong, where you were wrong, and take 100% responsibility for your error without sharing it with anybody. After you have done that, your actions of humility would be the thing that helps to convince people about how penitent you are. You know, some people still go with a pompous attitude and spirit that they have not shown a spirit of penitence. And so therefore people don't take the apology. A genuine apology means that I'm now going to humble myself. I'm going to swallow my pride. I'm going to hide my ego and now be prepared to consider the circumstances as they are. Now, if I have gone there, I am going to ask now, please forgive me. After I've identified where I've done wrong, please forgive me. Now remember, whether or not the person forgives you is inconsequential. Once you go with a genuine heart and ask forgiveness, you have done the right thing. And your aim is to do the right thing, not to impress somebody or to get a feedback. Before God, you are forgiven. And if you want God to forgive you, The Bible says that you must be first prepared to forgive those who trespass against you. That's their responsibility, to forgive you their trespasses if they want God to forgive you. But you must therefore go to the person. And also, don't wait for the person to come to you. You have recognized you have done something wrong, you go to the person. I hope that I was able to touch some heart listening there. Somebody who has been in pain, or somebody who needs to take an action to inspire you to get off your couch. Make that telephone call to that person. Write that person that letter who has been in pain because of what you have said, what you have done, and to make an effort to restore that relationship, because there are certain things that are elements of a genuine apology. I'm Michael Stewart. I look forward to seeing you next time.